You ever wonder what's really going on inside a tech giant like Meta? I mean, beyond all the flashy keynotes and the headlines? Well, there's a different story out there, one they are legally required to tell. And today, we're going to dig into it. So, how do you do that? How do you get past all the PR and the marketing spin to find out what a company like this is truly thinking? Where do you find the unvarnished truth about what they're building? And more importantly, what they're afraid of? Well, it turns out you read the documents they have to publish by law. This thing is called a Form 10-K. It's an annual report they have to file with the government, and it's the closest thing you can get to an unfiltered look inside the company's brain. So let's crack it open. So here's our game plan. We'll start with what a 10-K actually is, then we'll look at Meta's massive vision for the future, see how that compares to the reality of their business today, check out their official worry list, and finally, break down the huge bet they're making. All right, so before we dive into Meta's strategy, let's just quickly get on the same page about what this document is and why it's such a goldmine. The key thing to get is that a 10-K isn't optional. It's a legal requirement for any company that's publicly traded. This isn't some glossy marketing brochure. It's a formal, legally binding document about the state of their business, warts and all. I like to think of it as a corporate diary they're forced to write every year. It has their strategy, their performance, and this is the really interesting part for us, their biggest fears. This is where you find the real story. Okay, so let's start with the official story. This is the big vision Meta tells the world, pulled right from the business section of their report. And there it is. It's a huge, bold vision. We're talking about building the future of human connection and even delivering personal superintelligence for everyone. I mean, that's incredibly ambitious, almost science fiction. But how does that stack up against how the business works today? Now, let's get to the reality check. Where does the money actually come from? This is where that grand vision meets the cold, hard numbers on the balance sheet. And here it is, the big reveal. Despite all the talk about superintelligence and the metaverse, the report makes it crystal clear. Substantially all of Meta's money comes from advertising. At the end of the day, it's a massive ad empire. And that empire is built on a key metric, daily active people, or DAP. Now, this isn't just a count of how many accounts are logged in. It's their best attempt to count the number of unique human beings using their apps every day. But as it turns out, counting to 3 billion is really, really hard. And you don't have to take my word for it. Meta themselves admit in the report that there are inherent challenges in measuring this. They say their user count is complex, and they even give a margin of error. At their scale, that small percentage could mean their guess is off by nearly 100 million people. And you can see why it's so tough. They have to figure out if one person has multiple accounts, right? They get very little data from encrypted apps like WhatsApp. And they're constantly fighting to weed out bots and spam accounts. So that multi-billion user number you always hear, it's fundamentally a very sophisticated estimate. Okay, so we've got an ad business built on a massive, slightly fuzzy user base. What could possibly go wrong? Well, let's flip to my favorite part of the report, the risk factors section. This is basically where the company confesses everything that keeps it up at night. And remember, they can't fudge this. They are legally obligated to tell investors about anything that could seriously damage the business. This is their official worry list. And would you look at this? They name their competition directly. This isn't some vague corporate speak about market pressures. They explicitly say that TikTok is a threat and that it has already hurt user engagement. That is a huge admission to put in writing. And the list just keeps going. They're worried about Apple and Google cutting off the data they need for ad targeting. They are facing a mountain of new, complicated regulations. They're worried about just plain failing to keep users. And they even mention the risk of being unable to operate in huge markets like Europe because of data privacy laws. These are serious existential threats to their core business. So, with your core ad business facing all these threats, where do you put your money? Well, the answer for Meta is to make a massive, multi-billion-dollar gamble on something completely different. And this number is just staggering. In a single year, Meta poured over $21 billion into Reality Labs. That's the division building the metaverse, VR, and AI glasses. To put that into perspective, that's more than the entire annual economy of dozens of countries. So where is all that money going? If you look closer, the majority of it, a full 70%, isn't even for the VR headsets we all think of. It's for wearables initiatives like AI glasses, and that is a huge clue about their strategy. And Meta knows this isn't some short-term project. They tell investors point blank that they expect this whole division to keep losing money for the foreseeable future. It is a long-term, high-risk bet funded entirely by their ad profits. So when you put it all together, you have the grand vision, the advertising reality, all those looming threats, and this massive gamble. It all boils down to one central, high-stakes question. And this is it. The entire company's strategy really hinges on the answer to this one question. Can Meta successfully build that next computing platform, that future of human connection, before competition and regulation wear away at the advertising empire that's paying for it all? The 10K doesn't give us the answer.